Our Jack Fink joining us with the highlights tonight. Jack?
Oh, that's right, Doug. Political fight night in Las Vegas, and both sides, both candidates, really came to the table to try to really give each other a knockout blow. And one of the most contentious parts of the debate centered around the WikiLeaks emails, which is from the Clinton campaign, and she accused the Russians of the hacking and exchanged jabs with Trump.
Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear.
Trump and Clinton also butted heads on the Second Amendment. She says she supports it, but believes in reasonable regulations. Trump strongly disagreed with gun control, citing violence in Chicago. They also differed on illegal immigration. And then the issue that has hurt Trump came up, the accusations of sexual assault and how he allegedly treats women.
Donald thinks belittling women makes him bigger. He goes after their dignity, their self-worth, and I don't think there is a woman anywhere who doesn't know what that feels like.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. She mentions this, which is all fiction, all fictionalized, probably or possibly started by her and her very sleazy campaign.
Now, there were no knockout punches during the debate, which many analysts say Trump would have needed to lift him up back in the polls. Election day is less than 20 days away, so we shall see.
It'll be interesting to see the polls tomorrow, see where people stand after tonight.
Tomorrow and maybe a couple days out.
Yeah,
takes a while.
Take a little bit. Jack, thanks very much. Local connection here. We'll talk about Mark Cuban in a moment. He was in the audience.
Yeah, we will get to that. But you know what? If you just can't wait, there's a conversation. It's happening tonight with Jack. He's going to continue it with you through Facebook Live. He, along with a debate expert and two undecided voters, are going to take your questions about tonight's face-off. All you need to do is go to our CBS DFW Facebook page to join in the conversation.
Yes, we mentioned Mark Cuban had a front row seat to the act.
All right. That was Jack live on CBS 11 News. We're back. We are still taking questions. I just want to make sure that I mentioned the poll. So we have a Facebook poll about who won, and we have the results. Oh, yay. Hey, thank God.
Oh, no. How's it been going?
Well, I was just reading a poll from our Facebook. There was a Facebook poll.
Oh, okay.
So we
Great.
have the results. 53% Trump, and 53% say Trump won.
Okay.
And 47% say Clinton won, which is interesting for Texas.
Well, it is. And what I wanted, you had said before, I think before the debate started, you thought Trump did the best out of all three of his debates.
Yes, I think he had his best performance, I'd say. And he was a little more focused on policy. He was more restrained generally. So.
And so, did you saw what we did at 10 o'clock, and we had the first exchange we had was really one of the most contentious exchanges we had all night in the debate, and that was regarding who was a puppet. You know, it was the whole WikiLeaks, the Clinton campaign, and what did you think of that exchange about them calling puppets, Scott?
I feel like Hillary probably got the best of him in that exchange. That felt practiced to me, that she was ready for that debate to go down, and she was baiting him into it. In fact, I think she pivoted to the Russia question, away from the open borders energy debate that was happening.
It was still on the WikiLeaks, but she just pivoted a little bit.
She kept it in the ballpark, but it was there. Different, a slightly new spin on that, generally. I thought she came ahead there. She was able to indict him, to point out that he wasn't support. They had 17 agencies that had said that Russia was involved. She was able to score on him there, I think, a little bit, and just generally.
But he did bring up the point, though, that he felt like, you know, he says he doesn't know Putin. He says, you know, I don't support, you know, any espionage or anything like that. He did come out and say that, but he wouldn't acknowledge that it was definitely Russia. He thought he did differ with her on that.
Yeah, he said there was no way to know it was Russia.
What did you think of that?
I thought it was interesting that she called him a puppet, for sure. I liked his comeback that he thinks that Putin would work with him in the future, whereas relations with Obama have been strained, and where he thinks relations with Clinton would be strained.
Well, it wasn't just the straining. He thought that basically Putin doesn't respect the Obama administration, President Obama, and wouldn't respect Hillary Clinton because she was a Secretary of State. But he also said that, you know, Putin has outmaneuvered the United States when it comes to foreign policy, whether it be in Syria or other issues.
Right. One of the things that was interesting about that exchange is that the way Hillary complicates that narrative is to say, to ask the question, why does he want you? And that's we were talking a little bit before we went on the air about motivated reasoning. And so depending on kind of who, I think that works well for Hillary because people fill in the blank on that question. And instead of him saying, he doesn't respect this particular administration, it gets turned back on him. And now he has to answer the question, why is someone who is such an incredible, so great politically and makes such incredible political maneuvers want you to be president more than the other?
And then we had the second exchange. It was about the women, and we all know that has hurt Trump really since right before the second debate to the present time. We've seen his poll numbers drop. So you had mentioned before, Madison, that when you saw that 2005 tape, that was, it's something that really
definitely appalling, I thought.
Yeah. So what did you think of this exchange tonight, and what did you think of his comments?
I think it was almost comical when he said that nobody appreciates or respects women as much as he does. I mean, I think for however long he's been campaigning in this election and for all the tapes that have been going on or his comments over the past few decades, that we just know that that's not true. And I personally don't think he respects women in a very high regard, and it just did not make much sense to me as to why he would say that, especially once he called Hillary
well, he said that campaign was sleazy.
A sleazy campaign, and the last thing he said,
a nasty woman.
Nasty woman, yes.
At the very end of the debate.
Yes.
Yeah. And Taylor, what did you think?
It would have resonated more with me if he talked about, I will respect women more than anyone. Talking about the future. He can't have videos come out and say he respects women, but if he made a point to say in the future he is, that would resonate with me, that he acknowledges his mistakes and he's going to move forward. But that comment did not make me feel any better about
So you both wanted to hear a little bit more contrition, hey, again, I'm sorry, and then pivot ahead and say that's not going to happen again.
Yes.
Do we have any comments from our friends at Facebook Live?
We talked about straight talk and career politician. We just talked about that. Jody says, no matter how Hillary tries to explain her positions, how does one believe anything she says? He may not be robotic or AKA career politician, but straight talk is resonating. And then Sherry Thomas says, I missed the first debate, so do we know either of their stances on public education?
Yeah, that has not been, that hasn't been discussed, I don't think, in any of the debates at all. You've watched all of them. Scott, I know you have, and we certainly have, and I don't think that has come up at all. But I do want to get back to this whole question about women, because this is an issue for both of you. You were supportive of Trump, and then that really changed your mind. And so I'm wondering, Taylor, you said tonight was very helpful. Where do you see your decision going? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but where do you see, can you push these comments aside?
After seeing Trump answer a lot of questions very respectably and in positions that I supported, I can see myself supporting Trump once again, but I agreed more with the policies that Clinton brought up. So in that case, I would sway probably more towards her at this point because of the issues she brought up, not because of what Trump has said in the past, but the new policies they've been talking about.
And, we have a clip from our political analyst, Cal Gilson from SMU, a political science professor there. Craig, it's clip number 4. We're going to get to that in a second. But he talks about, this is one of his biggest problems is with Republican women. And this is how he's lost his support. So let's play the clip and let's let Professor Gilson talk about why this has been so important for Trump.
That, I think, has resonated with American women. Democrat women took that in and ran with it. Republican women were stunned by that. It made them rethink their position. It's deteriorated his role, his support among Republican women. That's his Achilles heel.
That's really, what we have seen, because we look at the battleground states, and that's so important. I mean, here in Texas, I mean, obviously you're in Texas, you're going to be voting in Texas, and while the polls seem to have shrunk for Trump here, and the gap has certainly narrowed here, I don't know that there's anybody who expects Hillary Clinton to beat Donald Trump in Texas. I haven't heard that, even though, despite what the polls say, it's shrinking against him. It's getting tighter. I don't think anybody thinks that she's going to pull an upset here, but who knows? We'll see what happens. So I'm wondering, for you, Madison, because we were talking, you're a Republican.
Yes.
So where are you on the issues? Because Taylor says she feels she likes the issues better with Hillary Clinton. Where are you on the issues? If I remember our discussion before, you said you still like Trump on the issues.
Correct. I do appreciate Trump with some of his issues regarding immigration. I think Clinton said there was like 15 million immigrants are legally in the country right now. And I don't have an answer of what to do with the ones already here, but I think that I like his approach on stopping people from just entering our country.
You think he'd do a better job of stopping it?
Correct, yes. And I also agree more with his, I think, on abortion and what he said for pro-life. I think what he brought up about killing the baby in the 9th month, I think, yeah, that I think kind of confused a lot of people, and I don't necessarily think that's what it was they were discussing, but as a Republican, I stand more with those issues.
And I guess, the other question becomes, stylistically tonight, Professor, what did you think as far as, do you think he was able to make any inroads with Republican women who've had some doubts, just like, we've heard from these young ladies tonight?
Sounds like maybe, right? A more measured approach will help, I think, distance him from some of the more egregious comments he's made, specifically about women, which is what's causing some of the fallout among white Republican women especially. So it's possible that he made some moves there.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any comments on Facebook or any questions, Parna?
I think as far as the comment is concerned, Gloria, it's a comment, it's not really a question.
Okay.
Gloria writes, being the President of the United States is a political position. So when you need a doctor, you want to try a lawyer next time because all the doctors did not do as well as you thought they should. So I'm thinking, like, she's thinking that,
Politicians good for a political job.
Politicians need to be where they're supposed to be. Like for a problem,
right.
You go to a doctor.
Right. Don't leave it up to the government.
Right.
That's what it sounds like she's saying. Gloria, thank you so much for the comment. Any other questions so far? We welcome everybody's questions. We can certainly ask our panelists here what they thought if you have a good question. So please keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming. One of the other issues that came up, which is certainly very important here to people in Texas and especially here in the DFW area, and that is the Second Amendment, gun control. And Hillary Clinton went out of her way today to say that she does support the Second Amendment, but she also, said that she does support, she wants some controls on that. And obviously, Donald Trump disagreed with that. So that's clip number 2, Craig. Let's see if we can cue that up, and let's take a listen at how they differed on this issue.
First of all, I support the Second Amendment. I lived in Arkansas for 18 wonderful years. I represented upstate New York. I understand and respect the tradition of gun ownership. It goes back to the founding of our country. But I also believe that there can be and must be reasonable regulation.
Well, let me just tell you, before we go any further, in Chicago, which has the toughest gun laws in the United States, probably you could say by far, they have more gun violence than any other city. So we have the toughest laws, and you have tremendous gun violence. I am a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment.
All right, so what did you think of that? First, let's start with you, Madison.
I guess on this issue, I actually agree more with Secretary Clinton. I think she mentioned that 33,000 lives a year, I think she said, are taken from guns in the country. And that number just seems so large. And I do think that there should be, I guess, laws implemented to help prevent people that shouldn't be getting guns.
Well, I mean, there are already a lot
Right.
of laws on the books. And, you know, Trump's point was, hey, you know, they have all these gun controls in Chicago, and that hasn't helped with the violence there. What did you think of that, Taylor?
I agreed more with Trump on this, that we do have these Second Amendment rights there, and they are being upheld. He didn't mention it in this debate, but I've heard him speak before on the importance of maybe looking at mental health in relationship to Second Amendment rights and gun violations and controls. I think that's an important conversation that should have been brought up with this, that wasn't mentioned. So I really agreed with him in that sense, that we need to look past these restrictions because it's not helping anything right now. There's still this problem. So looking past that into something like mental health might be worth looking into.
And Professor, what did you think of this debate? Did anybody, you know, get the better of anybody on this debate? Did either candidate come out ahead, do you think?
Of the Second Amendment debate specifically?
Yes.
I was struck as I was listening to it. I didn't think that there was Chicago's anecdotal evidence at best, and it's his one example. And so, you know, that's induction, not deduction, on the question of whether or not stricter controls work, which I'm typically skeptical of, generally, not on the Second Amendment question, just as a form of reasoning. Mm-hmm. I felt like at the end, Hillary starts with, I support the Second Amendment. He starts with, I support the Second Amendment. It's a question of whether or not you think reasonable controls are important or effective. And I felt like she kind of probably came away on that question, like I said, in
the sense that he didn't convince viewers at home that she was going to
take the
issue away, right?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even try, which was sort of strange for him. And his strategy has typically been, day after she's elected, if she is.
Well, because he said at his rallies that she was going to try to do away with the Second Amendment. He didn't really go there tonight.
Well, she stopped him from doing that effectively, and she had the advantage of speaking first on that. I think she got the question to her, and she was able to say, I support it. You can't really refute that, and that's been her position all along. She's never really been. She's been for controls, not against the Second Amendment generally. So I think she was able to control it right away. She didn't give him much to work with, and what he had was sort of anecdotal evidence about Chicago. Had he had more examples of that or anything, some stronger evidence on that, he might have been able to score a few points. But honestly, I felt like she handled him from the beginning.
I wonder if there were any issues that they left out.
Well, I think education was one of them. Because
education, climate change.
We haven't had a debate on climate change at all on this question. I mean, in any of the debates.
I think in the second debate they brought it up a little bit, but not much.
Opioid addiction, that was another one.
Drugs.
There was a little bit of discussion about borders and drugs, but not specifically
But like
opioids.
addiction,
Right.
that I think that they didn't talk about that.
Right. Well, this debate was really centered on, the foreign hotspots, the debt and entitlements, which they didn't get to until the very end.
Right.
And then, but also, the WikiLeaks and the women, which are, problems for, Hillary Clinton on the WikiLeaks, the women for Donald Trump, and then also immigration and the Supreme Court, which that was the very first issue, and we ran a clip earlier, but I did think that was very interesting how that was the very first topic. They talked about Roe versus Wade, they talked about, obviously, gun control, and who should be selected, what kind of justice should be filling that vacancy. I thought that was very interesting, at least policy.
Yeah, we started off on a pretty strong policy note, and they actually had something, they each had something to say about it. Again, I thought Clinton, as always with her, Clinton's position is nuanced. Whether that's good or bad, and Trump is just very straightforward, it'll be all pro-life all day.
What do you think of the end when they had, because it wasn't really scripted beforehand per se, that everybody was going to have a closing remark, and yet, Chris Wallace, the moderator, gave everybody that opportunity. What do you think of that?
I actually thought it was the whole debate in a nutshell, and not just the debate, it was the campaign. If if you do a quick content analysis of what Hillary said at the end of it, it was all very positive. It was the stronger together message, right? I have it right here, because we need to reach out, everyone's skilled, everyone has talents, we all contribute to a national vision, blah, blah, blah. And she had sort of a positive note, which was what she's needed to do in all the debates, is keep it positive. And
was this the best instance for her?
I thought this was yes, it helps as the last debate and the last thing she says, but I thought it was the best iteration of it I've heard. Trump's, on the other hand, he has make America great again, of course, but then he's like, depleted military, mistreatment of our vets, no justice in America, justice in America, our economy is a disaster. These are all very negative visions at the end.
But this is what has propelled him from the beginning, highlighting these issues. This is right. I mean, isn't it fair to say this is right?
Again.
Isn't it fair to say that this is what has propelled him in the first place?
It is, but the question I would think, if coaching him to broaden the audience, you've got those folks, and then you've got to reach out to somebody new, and just as a rhetorical strategy, make America great again actually could be a positive vision, but you fill that vessel with innately negative comments, and so I think he's, again, talking to people who already support him, and I wonder, just as an argument, how many people this is reaching.
Right. So you take that, but then you pivot and try to make, okay, here's what I'm going to do about it.
Make America great for me. Like, tell me how you've made America great. Like, knowing that our military is depleted, tell me that you're going to make me safer, as opposed to the negative that something's wrong. The economy is a disaster. Tell me how your tax plan, for example, is going to make my everyday life better.
And when you talk about expanding his base, and I've mentioned the polls and the fact that he has been sliding, really, because if you look at right before the first debate, he was poised, he was right there. He was leading in key states. I think he was even leading
2 points nationally, right?
Nationally, right. So we have a graphic, Craig, of Trump's path, albeit it may be a very narrow path. All right, here it is, okay? So these are the 5 states that Donald Trump would need to win 270 electoral college votes. Now, what's missing on that graphic? What's missing is he has to win all of Mitt Romney's states in 2012. So he would have to win North Carolina, he would have to win Arizona, 2 states. Right now, today, Clinton went up ahead in Arizona by 0.2 of a point. And in North Carolina, she's leading 2.6 points. So for Trump to win, he needs those states, part of Mitt Romney's states. And if we can just put it up on the board one more time, Craig, thank you. In Florida, she's leading. In Nevada, she's leading. And in New Hampshire, she's leading. Trump is leading in Ohio and Iowa. If he is able to get ahead in those 5 states, that puts him right at 270. And Hillary Clinton at 268. Can you imagine how close that is? But again, you see he is behind in Florida, Nevada, and New Hampshire. That's it in a nutshell. He's got to hold on to Ohio and Iowa, and then he has to win Florida, Nevada, and New Hampshire. Because right now, if you look at the map, and there were no toss-up states at all, Hillary Clinton would win with 333 electoral college votes. Trump would have 205. That's almost exactly where 2012 was, because President Obama won with 332 and Mitt Romney had 206. So that's where we are right now if the election were held today. Then the other question is, all right, we've got now less than 20 days. Could Trump turn it around? I don't know if anybody's commenting with us or has any questions about that, but that's really going to be the key to watch, on election night.
The thing is, like I said, to turn it around or to get access to either getting some of the independents who might be voting for Hillary, I think the message has to be more inclusive, and that would be my concern if I was advising Trump. Is are we doing that?
Like I said at the end of our 10 o'clock, there was no real knockout blow. Mm-hmm. So for him to turn it around makes his job a lot harder now when there's no more national stage per se, like we saw tonight. And
he's not spending a lot of money on ad buys still, right? So he is great, like going out to the people. He'll be in the cornfield with 30,000 people, and I said that to reference Romney. He was also like drawing huge numbers at the end, but not necessarily translating them into wins at with the electorate.
Well,
it needs new people,
right?
That's what I'm saying. You got to have somebody new.
Right. Well, I want to thank all of you guys for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. Taylor and Madison and Scott, Aparna, I appreciate all the help. Thank all of you watching out there on our CBS DFW Facebook page and our website, cbsdfw.com. We certainly had a lot of fun here tonight. We appreciate everybody's comments and questions. Election Day, like I said, is less than 20 days away. We hope you go out and vote. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great night from all of us here at CBS 11.